you ever found yourself stuck in a reading slump so that nothing can capture and keep your attention? This was me until I stumbled upon these books right here. They're not all thrillers, as I do typically talk about, but I truly think that any good reader can love and obsess over more than one genre. So that's exactly what we have going on here. Each one of these pulled me in from most of them, honestly, the prologue, but definitely within the first chapter. And they really reminded me of why I fell in love with reading in the first place. If you're looking for some novels to keep you up at night, you are in for a treat. Let's get into it. Now, this is actually the perfect list for anyone that has found themselves just not feeling anything for the books that they have read recently. They all have unique factors to them and are definitely not the typical something's wrong, there's a mystery, we're going to solve it. Oh no, now we're in trouble because we should have minded our own business, and then there's a happy ending. These are more unique and well-rounded, I would say. Not all of them are thriller picks, which is exciting for me. My name is Sarah, and I love to read a good thriller. Some of my favorite authors, just in case we haven't met before, are Lucinda Berry, Amy Engel, and coming up quick on that is Mary Kubica. So in the past year or so, I have definitely started reading more. It actually exactly started 1 year ago on spring break in 2024. I truly loved reading growing up. You could always find me with my stuffed animals reading books outside in the grass, like a whole little, like just picture it. It was like a whole little house on the prairie moment, reading with my picnic basket and my stuffed animals. But then I grew up and I had kids. I still was reading all throughout high school, all throughout college. But once I had my oldest, my 10-year-old daughter, Sophia, once I had her, things just kind of changed and I no longer had like the time. I was also starting my career. We're newlyweds and just that kind of season of life came into play. And then when I was finally, getting into a good groove, we had my son, who's now 7. And then after that, my youngest, who is now 3. So I have not had time to carve out for myself in this way. And I didn't realize how much I missed it until spring break last year. And that first book was Before We Were Innocent. Something about the cover truly spoke to me. Call it my inner millennial, right? There's a black and white cover with some girls, and then everything is like baby pink, the accents and stuff. So it was honestly the cover that called me to it first. But then when I read about it, I was like, wow, this really sounds like something that's going to pique my interest. I feel like this plot line of friends going on vacation and one of them not making it back from vacation and the journey after is a pretty standard thriller plot line. But what I really liked about this one is that it didn't just jump from the night where everything happened to 10 years later, right? When everything is like coming back up, it actually goes through and it spends a lot of time creating that in between. So you don't just get a time lapse, you get all that space in between. And it really talks about the entire situation in a way that is serious, but not overly heavy, and also adds in a nice coming of age, I feel. I really enjoyed it because it was not the typical what I would have expected it to be. And that was really the first book that got me good and back into reading. Next up was A Flicker in the Dark by Stacey Willingham. I have not read all of Stacey Willingham's books. I've read this one and I've read All the Dangerous Things, but this one really spoke to me and kind of had me wanting to choose more books and wanting to read more because I had so many mixed emotions surrounding what happens to the female lead character. If you haven't read it but plan to, I'm going to say you should probably skip ahead just a little bit. I don't want to spoil anything with the information that I am about to give. So I'll just give you a second. I was feeling very yellow today. I don't know. I never wear yellow, but Apparently, I was feeling it today. So, anyway, in the story, there is the female main character. And in her town in Louisiana, I love a good story based in the South. 6 girls go missing. What ends up happening is they arrest and send her father to jail for it. And she kind of has to deal with the fallout of that. But the plot twist at the end, or towards the end, was so unexpected to me that I like didn't it like left me honestly shocked. Like I did not at all see this particular plot twist coming. And of course, I'm not going to tell you what it is. I definitely recommend you read it. It was a really quick read, especially as it started picking up pace. It just really was shocking to me, and I wasn't expecting the way that it turned out. So as soon as I read this one, I knew that thrillers were going to be my jam. Next up, I do have the physical copy of, and I will never get rid of it. It is The Best of Friends by Lucinda Berry. I love this book so much because of how real and relatable the situations are in this book. Now, while not everything in this book has happened to me or someone I know, I can see different elements of it playing out in real life. Nothing in this book is far-fetched. Nothing in this book I feel like could never happen to me or someone that I know. I just feel like it's a really great representation of things that happen in real life and happen to people that you know. So it is a multiple point of view, and I'm not gonna lie, it is a little bit challenging to follow because of the multiple points of view, but that did not stop me at all. So just a little bit of background. The story follows 3 points of view. It's 3 moms. They all have kids, and 3 of their teenage kids become and are lifelong best friends. But when the kids are teenagers, they're having a typical sleepover, something awful happens. And then, so it's kind of like the journey of the moms trying to figure out what actually happened at the sleepover, because what happened is not as cut and dry as it originally seems. But it also has like in it elements of the husbands as well. Not all of the husbands are the way that they portray, right, to the outside or to other people. So it has so many elements to it, and I found it very, very gripping. Gripping is the best word I can use to describe this book. I finished this book possibly 3 days. I'm serious. I finished it so fast. It just meant a lot to me because of how relatable it was. I don't know. I just felt like it was such an amazing story, and this is one that I will never stop talking about. I truly love it. And if you've never read it, I highly recommend you do. Then we come to another quick read, The Familiar Dark by Amy Engel. I've talked about this book before in other videos, but when I tell you that this book had me by every part of my soul, I 100% mean it. I'm not being dramatic. This is a fantastic book. Truly fantastic. It was a very quick read, and if I had one kind of gripe, it would be that I wish the book was longer. It is heart-wrenching. It is so sad. The imagery in it is unmatched. I have never read a book before where I truly felt like I was there in the room. When she goes to this trailer, I feel like I'm in that trailer with her. I feel like I can smell the smells of the trailer. When she goes to like a club, you know, one of those kind of clubs, I feel like just the way it was written, I was there with her. I was feeling with her. Everything that was happening, I felt like it was, I don't know. I don't know how else to explain it, but I cannot tell you how much I loved this book. And I will say, I think that that is true for Amy Engel books in general. The imagery and the writing is extremely strong and intense, because I read shortly after this, I read The Roanoke Girls, also by her, and really thought the same of that story as well. Didn't like it as much as I liked The Familiar Dark. Just the storylines, you know, obviously were different. But everything mechanically about this book is the same as her other book, and I would guess is the same as all of her books. They are just so well written, and they just suck you in so deeply. Definitely would recommend this one. Next up, this one has been very controversial online because of some of the subject matter in the story. The Wedding People by Alison Esbach. I really loved this. My dad actually gave this to me for Christmas last year, 2024's Christmas. And I put off reading it because I wasn't exactly sure how I would feel about it. First of all, I had like a thing against hardcover books. I don't know what it was, but I just didn't like it. Like, I like folding like my books back and stuff like that. And so anyway, I know that's petty, but I didn't want to read it because it was a hardback. But then when I did, I couldn't put it down. It kind of goes through the journey of the female main character, getting over, growing, and learning from her husband leaving her for someone else. Spoiler alert, sorry, I should have said that. She goes through a lot of self-realization, and now that I've been married for a long time, I've been married for 11 years, I find myself going through some of the similar realizations that she has. And if you want to talk more about that, like, I'd be glad to do a dedicated video where I go into like actual detail about that, but I don't want to make this video 10 years long. If you are considering reading this and you haven't yet, one, I recommend you look at the trigger warnings just to make sure that, you know, you are in a good place to read this. But if you are, I would absolutely make this the next book that you read. It just is like, the ending is very uplifting. It goes from a dark place for the main character to the light. And I just, you know, when you're in a certain spot in your life, you need something like that. So I was really, really happy about this one. Now, I'm very briefly going to touch on Birthday Girl by Penelope Douglas because I'm aware not everyone likes that kind of story. However, I do. I enjoy a good spice now and again. I typically read like 2 or 3 thrillers, and then I give a romance and then a spice a chance, and then I go back to my thrillers. My husband loves a good spicy book, even though he doesn't read them. If you know, you know. So Birthday Girl by Penelope Douglas, I very much so enjoyed. I've read several of her books. I have not read all of them. I also read Credence, and I've started Five Brothers, but I haven't gotten that far into that book. The reason I chose Birthday Girl out of all of them was because I felt like it was the most universally accepted. It doesn't have a lot of like taboo style. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you've read her other books, they have like light traces of taboo topics, but I don't feel that way about Birthday Girl. I feel like the main character and her love interest, who is her current boyfriend's father, I feel like that storyline sounds one way, but when you read it and you see how it actually unfolds in the story, I really did think that that was a nice way to have a situation like that. Oh, I almost knocked over my water. I do feel like that was a great way to kind of have the characters begin to interact. Like, they meet in a very meet cute way. It just very naturally, I don't know, I really enjoyed it. Obviously, there were some really great scenes in there. I think that it was nicely written, and how it all unfolds is actually really, really great, in my opinion. I didn't think it was crazy far-fetched. Like, I do think that Credence by Penelope Douglas was kind of far-fetched. Obviously, anything can happen, but I liked Birthday Girl because I felt like it was more realistic, and I added it to this list because I do think that the storyline is very unique and the way that it is written. Before we get into the final pick of the video, I wanted to ask you guys your opinion. I can't decide which one I want to read next. I'm battling between Only If You're Lucky by Stacey Willingham and The Block Party by Jamie Day. I still haven't taken off the stickers yet. I don't know which one of those I should read next. I'm so torn. I'm very torn between which one would be a good pick. If you would please give me your opinion in the comments. Which one should I read next? And then The final book, okay, that got me back into reading, the final book that took me out of a slump and really established me back like in my reading season was Society of Lies by Lauren Lynn Brown. When I tell you, my husband and my son were talking to me. I have no idea how long they were talking to me, but I was so in this book, I totally didn't even hear them. Okay. I didn't even hear them. And that has not happened to me before. So I really enjoyed it. Society of Lies, if you haven't read it, is phenomenal. I cannot tell you enough how much I loved this book. In one video where I was reading it, I hadn't finished it yet, but I had said in that video that I couldn't imagine a scenario where the end of the story fell flat. And that is very true. This is honestly a 5.5 out of 5 stars for me, which I've also never done before. Like, I regard this book extremely highly, and this one is better. I'm telling you right now. I love the premise of it. I love books that are based in academia. I love the secret society angle. I love how there's a wide array of characters in the story. It is a very diverse cast, which I don't know. Do you still call it a cast if it's in a book? I'm not sure, but I'm going to. If you're an unhinged bookworm, like, you're going to love this. I also enjoy how it's written. I noticed a lot of reviews were saying that the way it was written was too confusing because there are multiple points of view. Look, it looks like a cute little newspaper. There are multiple points of view, but both of the multiple points of view time jump. So it, like, one of the characters gets, okay, one of the characters is like the main character. The second character is her little sister. The little sister gets murdered. So her timeline is backwards, like from, I think it's like 10 months before she gets murdered and up until the day that it happens and when it's happening. With the older sister, it's time jumping from 10 years ago when she was a part of the secret society and current time. So I do agree that it can be confusing at times, but I was so in love with it that I had no problem following the line at all. So yes, definitely Society of Lies, 10 out of 10. And I'm telling you right now, if this gets made into a major motion picture, I will change out of my pajamas and go to the movie theater and see it. I don't want to see this on Netflix. I want to see it on the big screen.